The year is 2021, and the Cars diecast line has just made a very interesting decision. Starting this year, the line has dropped the series system, the way that it's organized its mainline since 2013, dividing the mainline releases up across several, typically 12 series, based on different scenes, themes, and concepts from across the 2 and later 3 Cars movies. We would have lines like Piston Cup, Florida 500, World Grand Prix, Radiator Springs, more specific ones like Dynaco Daydream and Ye Left Turn In. But in 2021, they decided to ditch this concept, instead simply organizing the cars by what project they're from. Now, when you flip around a Cars diecast, the back of the packaging will say, as seen in Cars, as seen in Cars 2, as seen in Cars 3, and so on and so forth. This year, we only had items from the 3 Cars movies, but they've continued this system in future years, so we would later see this adapted to things like Cars on the Road, and of course, even the Cars tunes and other things like that. This was a pretty interesting choice, and at the time I remember thinking that it would really free up the Cars diecast line. As cool as the series were, they could sort of confine the toy line, right? You had to have cars related to these series. And with that gone, well, now you could really do whatever you want. While I think future years kind of took advantage of that, I always felt like 2021 was a year that really could have still fit within the series system, as most cars still fit into unifying themes. This year, regardless of how the line was organized, was still an incredibly solid one, giving us a lot of really great new releases. It was honestly pretty difficult to find a favorite car for this year. I had Rusch pretty much locked in for a while now, but there were so many cars that easily could have taken his place, that could have easily been a second place favorite of mine. There are so many great releases this year. 2021 gave us a lot of Cars 3 releases. In fact, every new release in the main line except for 2 was a release from Cars 3. That's something that's always sort of bothered me, since now we were many years out from the release of Cars 3, and I think they should have been balancing releases better, but you can't deny that this year had a lot of really, really great releases. And a lot of, like I said, highly anticipated ones. The rest of Sweet Tea's Band finally came out. The rest of the Hot Rod Legends came out. The final few next gens came out, including Will Rush here, ending what really felt like an era for the Cars diecast line, as a fan base eagerly anticipated what next gens would come out next. From Cars 1, we had Cars 1 camera cars. This year, they made the very interesting decision to include some holiday cars in the main line, something they only tried for this year in 2022. And with that, we got the Easter McQueen that was canceled several years prior, as well as a Halloween Luigi and Guido. So some pretty cool items, although there were very few non-Cars 3 ones in the main line, just 2 Cars 1 camera cars, and of course those holiday cars. Those were super cool and incredibly unique to get. In addition to that, we got a ton of racing tractors and legend racers from the doc flashbacks. I was always sort of bothered by just how many of those we got, but still, although they did a lot of them this year, the individual releases themselves were absolutely stellar. There's also Track Damage Crews, Race Start Luigi, Saludos Amigos Ramon, finally giving us the final Cars 3 Ramon. It really felt like they were sort of wrapping up a lot of the most significant items from Cars 3. And with it confirmed that a new Cars project was coming out in 2022, that makes sense. It made sense for them to sort of wait, release the final Cars 3 Ramon this year, release the final next gens this year, before they moved on to sort of the next era of the toy line. I think 2021 was a really, really solid year. We also had some really good re-releases this year. The Cars 2 Tokyo cars really stood out to me, the first time they really did some non-main character and non-World Grand Prix Cars 2 re-releases after Cars 3's release. And in addition to that, we had some really nice expanded universe stuff, since this year we had the release of the NASCAR crossover line, a Cars diecast line where, from what I've heard, NASCAR designers went in and designed different Cars diecasts, giving us new variants of favorite characters and some of the NASCAR racers who voiced Cars characters, as well as some brand new racers, which I think one of the coolest moves the Cars diecast line has ever done, used the Cars 3 sponsors, the Cars 1 sponsors that were cut from Cars 3 to be their sponsors. So we got new Piston Cup-esque racers with the old sponsors, something that fans had been making fan concepts of for years, right? Fan designs and stuff like that. Well, now we had official designs of a shifty drug next gen, a fiber fuel next gen, and so on and so forth. They did some really, really cool things. And another super cool thing they did this year was some 15th anniversary stuff. Since 2021 marked 15 years since the first release of Cars, they did a line called Racing Red. While it was never confirmed that this was an anniversary line, it's been highly speculated as such. I think it's pretty obvious that's what it was supposed to be. This line released 6 different cars from each of the 3 Cars movies. We had 6 in total with super cool metallic red paint jobs, including McQueen, Francesco, Mater, Sally, Cruz, and Jackson Storm. It's an absolutely stellar line, and Jackson Storm was very, very close to being the pick for today. So yeah, 2021, really solid year. Oh, there was also the mail-away Gold McQueen. Very, very solid year. And despite all those great releases I spent the last almost 6 minutes listing off, for me, I truly think the best item of 2021 is this guy right here, Will Rusch. He's trying to roll away from me. Stay, Will, stay! I've said many times in the past that I'm not the biggest fan of next gens, and I'm genuinely shocked that 2 of the items I've covered in 20 years of favorites are next gens. But, you know, while I think a lot of next gens are kind of generic and samey, when they knock it out of the park, they knock it out of the park. I am very surprised to see Chris Roman and Will Rusch be my favorite releases for the years they came from. But even with so many great items in 2021, Will has always stood out to me as one of my favorite Piston Cup racers of all time. Not just next gens. I absolutely love this item. Hello everybody, and welcome back to 20 Years of Favorites, the series where I take a look at my favorite Cars diecast from each year leading up to the 20th anniversary of Cars. We're getting down to the wire here, guys. It's crazy to think that 2021 was 5 years ago, but it's also crazy to think that we've gotten to 2021 in this series. It's pretty interesting. Since we're reaching recent years, it's going to be interesting to see what items I pick for the next few years, since they're still pretty fresh in my mind. I'm very excited to take a look at Will Rusch today. I actually haven't reviewed him since I first got him back in February of 2021. But funnily enough, just a few days ago, I bought a certain item, Will Rusch. So Will Rusch was re-released for 2026, and this is a brand new variant of him with different paintwork, a different expression, and some other details. And I've heard people say that this is actually an improvement over the original Will Rusch. And I just think it's pretty funny that the week I review Will Rusch for 20 Years of Favorites is also the week where I find the new Will Rusch. So later on this week, you'll be seeing me review another Will Rusch. Yeah, for maybe the first time in the history of the channel, I'm reviewing an item's original release and its updated release in the same week. So stay tuned. Review of this guy should be coming out this Friday, so stay tuned for that, and we will be comparing and contrasting them and, yeah, seeing if it truly is an improvement. For now, let's focus on the original Will Rusch. Will Rusch, of course, is the Cars 3 vinyl toupee next gen. It has very little screen time in the movie. Like a lot of the next gens, we were really waiting for the diecast to come out to give us a good look at the character, and boy, Will sure is a good-looking character. I've always adored this character design with this super cool metallic purple paint job with the black and the gold highlights. I've loved this item since I first saw his mini racer. We got a mini racer of Will in 2020, several months before his regular diecast, and when I saw that item, I was like, okay, this is a sick design. Something about that dark metallic purple is just so cool. That, combined with the gold, combined with the whole design aesthetic, it's very sort of vaporwave inspired, which is a very overdone visual design. Why does he keep trying to roll? Jeez. It's definitely a sort of overdone design trend, but I think it really works here since it's something we've never really seen on other Cars diecasts. I always wondered if they chose this design style because Rev Rotages, the Cars 3 vinyl toupee veteran, reveals that vinyl toupee was founded in 1986. That, of course, is a reference to the year Pixar was founded, but you know, vaporwave is always seen as a sort of 80s visual aesthetic. So I always wondered if they kind of took the 80s aesthetic and ran with it for the next gen. I think it really fits with how obsessed popular culture is with visual aesthetics of the 80s, especially in 2017 with things like Stranger Things at their peak. This is a car that really, really fits the aesthetic that Cars 3 was going for the next gens, while still being very unique. You got that classic vaporwave triangle, the vinyl written in sort of cursive, and Toupe in these big bold letters. I really love this grid pattern, and I really like that it's both easy to see and also kind of hard to see, right? You can't really easily identify where it fades out, right? But actually it doesn't even fade out, it just straight up cuts off. I really like his facial expression. That's one thing I'm not the biggest fan of on the new variant. I feel like his facial expression isn't as good, but again, we'll take a closer look at that in a couple of days. I really do like everything about this item. I really have no complaints. One of my favorite details on Will Rusch is one of my favorite details with all of the vinyl Toupe racers. Vinyl Toupe is just that. It's a vinyl Toupe. It's spray-on vinyl that a car can put on their roof. And something I really love is that all three of their racers have black roofs, in reference to the fact that they themselves, as the Vinyl Toupe racers, are using Vinyl Toupe. I really love that detail. I just think that's so cool that they have their racers, you know, be wearing the product in that way. And while a lot of the next gens do sort of ditch concepts that the other racers established, I really appreciate that they kept that four-wheel Rusch. On the side here, we have the secondary sponsors: Piston Cup, Combustor, Carbon Cyber, and Synergy. And I'm sorry, guys, I have to check that off on the T-Tour Reviews Tire Review Bingo. For those of you who haven't watched my recent reviews, my good friend Calypso and I recently made a bingo board of things I often say in my reviews. Since the last time I showed this, we have a few we had to check off. Item is reviewed months after receiving, and Ty mentions the haul the item comes from. Cars Ignite 95 let me know that I did both of those things in my last review on Retro Ramon, and I know that Ty reads off secondary sponsors. There it is. It's right here. Yep. Hey, this one was inevitable. I had to do that at some point. If you see anything else I do that is on the bingo board throughout this video, or any of my other reviews as they come out, let me know. It's just a really funny thing we're trying to do. See how long it takes for us to get bingo. Anyway, I really like the stripes they do here. And again, that gold accent, really cool. Got the logo there on the back once again. And on the back, the gold sort of foil design continues. We have the little Vinyl Toupe logo there. It's written there once again. And on the other side, you're not really going to get much different in terms of details. I also really like the wheels, the purple and gold accents. Love how much they match the car. Yeah, this is an item that I just absolutely love. There's really not much else I can say. It's just a really good looking racer, and I think that it absolutely nails the visual aesthetic that it was going for. While it is a pretty overused visual aesthetic we see in the real world, it's not something we've often seen in the Cars universe, and I think Will Rusch absolutely rocks it. I think this is just one super cool looking car, and I can't wait to take a look at his new variant in a couple of days. But there you have it, guys. 2021. We are officially entering the modern era of the Cars diecast line. It's going to be pretty interesting to return to some pretty recent years, make our way into 2022, because things are going to change next year. As we continue to not have series, we'll also have some other changes, like, of course, the release of Cars on the Road, bringing a whole new lineup of strange and interesting characters to the diecast line. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.